Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Northwoods Renaissance. Today we are going to have a look at the 410 Snake Charmer by Koon Inc. This thing dates back to the late 70s, made of polymer and stainless steel, and in many ways a predecessor to some very popular modern firearms. So we'll discuss its history, some of its modern influences, some of the loads that it can be used for, and we'll break it down, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of this particular model and how it came into my possession. Let's do this. These little shotguns came out in 1978 and were produced until '09 and retailed for about $90. This particular one was my grandfather's. Don't worry, he's still around. We used to go out and have adventures together when I'm home on vacation. And I can remember seeing the box in '87 or '88 under the bed in the spare bedroom. And he tells me he bought it at the time for a rabbit hunt through Canada. So we'll take a break here and let the man take a shot with his shotgun. So these babies have a 18 and fraction of an inch barrel with a 28-inch overall length. I've got it next to my Glock 17 here, back up in the Northwoods, so you can get a kind of a sense of scale. And if you watch this goofball right here, you can see that the stock is so short and comes up so high that you can't even get your cheek down low enough on it to look down the barrel and line up the bead. For a little historical context, this thing predates the first Glock by 4 years. Rifles of the era were blued with wood furniture, and likewise cops were carrying blued Smith & Wessons and .38 Special. So for this thing to be stainless and have the polymer furniture was pretty futuristic. So to break it open, you hit this lever right here, and it's got an extractor but not an ejector, so you do have to pluck each individual shell out by hand. And it does not feature a safety, but it does have a half cock. As far as modern shotguns go, it's got pretty bare bones features, but what it does offer is a compartment in the back for additional shell storage. Kind of nice. The downside is you can only put 2.5-inch shells in there. The 3-inch ones won't fit. Alright, that's a lot of talking, so let's take another shot. And speaking of shot, I've got a respectable spread of ammo here for us. Got a 3-inch, 7.5. One of the 2.5-inch number 6s, and then some low brass stuff. It's number 8, and then we get into our pistol buckshot, and it's triple-aught, and a slug. So for my Taurus Judge fans out there, in case you were wondering, I've got a .45 Colt here, and it does not fit into the barrel, and just for the sake of conversation, I can't even get a .45 Jag down the bore. So, .45 Colt and the Snake Charmer, not only should you not do it, well, you can't do it. And it's a little beyond the scope of what we're trying to do here to pair all these shells with the appropriate fish and poultry like you would with a fine wine, but I've used the various shot shells for different nuisance birds. I imagine, you hear people talk about using slugs for deer hunting, but the sights on this thing really don't lend to it, so I can't ethically recommend that. And then, of course, the buckshot is advertised as a 410 handgun load, and I've been able to keep it on paper out to 50 yards, so I would think for in-house defense it would be just fine. So while a break-action shotgun isn't an ideal self-defense gun, sometimes you just gotta go with what you have. So while we do have great versatility with the 410, what we do unfortunately run into is cost. This baby's $20, a buck a shot, and then holy cats, if you're going to shoot slugs, good night. That's $7.99 for 5. And granted, these are Hawaii prices, but for my purposes, I'm only supposed to shoot slugs at the 50-yard range, and I could use the shot at the skeet range, I guess. I've just never gotten around to it. So we know this thing's got a fairly wide application for traditional hunting, be it smaller animals. For inanimate objects, we've still got some exploration to do. There's still time. That's okay. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the shorter ranges, and I'm going to need to really try this thing out on Sam's Choice. And it seems like a good grapefruit gun. Small game, right? Citrus, and possibly some of your hybrids. I digress. Okay. So I know what you're thinking. Professor Northwoods, you've made your claim to fame with inanimate object hunting. Unfortunately, I do not have a whole lot of inanimate object hunting experience with this thing. I've shot clay pigeons with it at 15 to 25 yards, but predominantly I've used it as a varmint shotgun for cowbirds. Now, many of you know what they are, but for those who are unaware, cowbirds are disgusting animals that lay their eggs in other birds' nests, and their rotund little babies hatch first, grow, get all the food from the surrogate parents, and then the parents' natural offspring all starve to death. It's gross. Anyway, cowbirds, nasty. Shoot on sight, because for every cowbird that you let live, a more desirable species is going to die out. So that's a no-brainer. Even if you're opposed to hunting, that's an easy choice. So I've yammered on for a while. Let's take a couple shots, and I will compare and contrast to you the slug versus the buckshot. And that's the 410 handgun buckshot, so it's not going to have the recoil that the slug is. Well, see for yourself. Nice shooting, Tex. So what's the place of the snake charmer today? Well, you can get them for about $90 on the auction websites. They've been out of production, as we said, for over 10 years. And there's a lot of older models, and the trigger guards are polymer. Often those will break from rough use. Sometimes the stocks will be broken. These screws are more like wood screws than anything else, so I'm reluctant to disassemble the stock lest I strip the threads in there. And oftentimes you'll see the cover for the extra shell storage lost to antiquity. And the good news is, because these things were all plastic and stainless, well, there will be a little corrosion because even stainless does rust. You can see where I've scuffed it up a little bit to clean that up. And don't worry, with stainless you can always redo the finish. It's not the end of the world. Just brush it out. These things have lasted far longer than maybe a blued model would that would be subject to similar abuse. I can only speculate, but it seems like the philosophy that brought us this compact little shotgun is diverged into two paths, one earlier and one quite recently. And on one path you have your pistol shotguns, which is why in the intro we call this the pistol caliber shotgun, because you've got the Taurus Judge, the governor, and they both take the 410 shells as well as the 45 Colt. And the other way you can go with it is your Mossberg Shockwave, which is actually 2 inches shorter. It does weigh 1 3/4 pounds more, but packs a 12 gauge punch instead of the 410. Some of the advantages of this over the Taurus Judge is you're not going to have that weird shot dispersion that you do from the rifled barrel. You're going to get a greater muzzle velocity from the extended barrel length. And it's a break action shotgun. It's a simple mechanism. It's easy to clean. You're not dealing with 6 chambers. You're not mixing and matching ammo and getting stuff stuck in there or getting case heads stuck behind the star. And if you've got an errant skunk in your front yard and you want to take a quick shot and just be able to run a boar snake through it and be done, this is the right tool for the job. So the original philosophy of use on this thing was as an anti-snake gun. So you might be wandering along, there might be a snake in the grass, and if it takes a poke at you, you'd be able to defend yourself. That might look something like this. Here you are, minding your business, and the snake jumps out of the grass at you, takes a strike, and you're able to use the snake charmer, immediately defend yourself, and defuse the situation. Problem solved. This thing was advertised as a quick to break down, kind of a backpack trail gun. So let's demonstrate that. Let's get the ammo out of here. Make sure we're unloaded, and we are. So in order to get this thing apart, you're just supposed to be able to unscrew this one screw, and you can get out to a point, but it seems like there's some tension on there and the tolerances are too tight with that handguard, so unfortunately I always have to take it off to get it apart. So I would not call that a quick takedown by modern standards, but the entire package is 18 and a fraction of an inch. So as far as backpack gun goes, I guess you could use it for that. Again, if it's what you got, go for it. You guys enjoy me taking one more shot at the range, and I'll throw this thing back together. That's a good job for you. And in case you're curious, well, I said I wasn't going to take this off. The tang comes back just a little ways past here. This back hand guard clamshells on, and you can see the pretty much wood screws. There's a little bulge there where it got over tightened. So, like I said, I'm hesitant to mess with those and damage the gun. So we covered a lot of points on this shotgun, but there were some things we couldn't get into because I've got the limited range here in Hawaii. We're not going to know about its effectiveness versus inanimate objects just yet. And at some point I'd like to do a shot pattern video similar to the one I did with the Taurus Judge, and we can check that all out in the future. I don't think I'm going to bring it home this year, but perhaps the next. It's lightweight, it's portable. Why not? We'll see what my weight capacity is. Figure it out. No, that was something else. I'm sure next time you see this I'll be shooting toy soldiers or that citrus that we talked about. Grapefruit, man. That's an invasive species if I've ever encountered one. Take care.